Okay, so today I'm just out for a studio visit with the artist Parham Ghalamdar. But first, let me give you a bit of introduction as to who he is and what he does. Have you ever looked at a painting and realised you have no idea what's going on, yet have some tractor beam pulled to it? Cartoonish-like and surreal, Parham's work does just that, layered with twists of a familiar reality, pulled from news clips or old masters paintings, whipped together on these creamy textural surfaces. Having only painted in oils for a few years, he cut his teeth on the walls of Tehran as a teenage graffiti writer, where he was arrested multiple times over the years before eventually being detained indefinitely. His story escaping Iran is both epic and frightening, and really drives home how art is a freedom we forget doesn't exist equally across the world.
The last years I was back in Iran, I was a member of this crew, ELF crew, ELF. One of the big differences between graffiti in Iran and Middle East comparing to here in the West is the context of it, because graffiti in Iran, no matter what you do, regardless of the content, it's a symbol of Western culture.
Right.
So it doesn't matter whether you're painting a donut, a turtle, or a portrait of a political leader or whatever. It's like, no, it's a no. Like.
He later honed his painting skills in other traditional mediums at Manchester School of Art, developing his unique absurdist style. For me though, his work shines in the moments when he's been able to combine traditional painting with his graffiti practice, like his solo show at Workplace in 2020.
My painting practice and all the extensions to it, it could all be seen as a quest for, as a search, as a quest, as an adventure for finding, it's a journey for finding order and discipline. When I started painting, I don't come up with the ideas from scratch. Painting has this kind of sandbox mode to it, that it's never really finished, you can exhaust it. And I think when I'm painting, I come to kind of, it comes to a point that I feel like I've put down enough information on this canvas, on this surface. Oh yeah, no, this is like fucking alchemy. So I kind of move on painting the same painting onto another surface, just like this, just like the same way that you have conversation with people and you don't need to say the end of transmission, end of conversation. It's not like a telegraph kind of thing. Both people know that the conversation is over, so they say goodbye and they move on. It's the same thing with painting, like there will be a point that you feel like, okay, it's enough information, so you move on to the next painting and you continue the same conversation onto another surface and you develop and build on. I don't start a painting from scratch. The way that I plan a painting, I'm always looking at masters' paintings. I'm always kind of analyzing them in a very scientific way. For instance, compositional analysis of the painting, and what I do is that I try to copy the same structure, strip it off from its content and put in my own content. And you know, when you have this structure, when you have that geometric structure, all I need to do is to just put in my own things. I never really think about it. I never really think about the subject or the content. It's so easy for me to put in something in there. I'm always watching films and news and reading things, so there are always some content, some subject that I'm concerned about and think about all the time outside of the studio. So just bring that into that geometric structure, you know. So it's not really difficult for me to plan a painting.
Watching Parham paint, it was clear to see the influence his early explorations in graffiti writing had in his practice, from the fluidity of his brushwork to his acid colour choices, yet now with more honed in compositional focus and a greater eye for tone and colour. He then went on to explain his process of sketching out ideas before scaling up.
A lot of the drawings that I put down are like these Pokemon cards, or like these cards with images of cars and athletes or footballists, or I don't know. I've done tons of these kind of I make a lot of drawings or little paintings to then kind of, whenever I'm painting a bigger thing, I have these little ideas to collage and mash up and put it in there. So a lot of those drawings are like just little reminders, like little subjects and contents, so that I wouldn't worry about that. Painting is not really worried about what you paint, because it's not really accessible. Like, you cannot say a painting of a tree is more important than a painting of a mountain. Like, it's not accessible, it's subjective, it's subject, you know. I don't really care about the subject. That's why I have all these silly cartoons, really absurdist material in my sketchbooks, or the images that I collect, or the screenshots of the films I collect. I have all this absurdist material to kind of create an image that the excess of absurdity destructs any kind of narration, any sense of story in there. It's just complete absurdity. The painting could develop its own identity, so the painting wouldn't be concerned about the subject or what you see, so we can be more concerned about how you see and the qualities of the surface and the inherent qualities of the painting. This gory idea of, you know, tattoos on intestines was a really crazy idea. It was a really brutal, violent idea. So I tried to paint everything with single brush strokes rather than blurring and kind of wiping out the brush stroke and painting in details.
One of the most impressive things was seeing the level of energy placed in these sketches, a kind of athletic creativity which seeps into the more quote-unquote complete paintings. The range of source material he taps into is also pretty extensively wide-ranging, and I think you can pretty clearly see this in the paintings, from the various nods to styles, techniques, or imagery. Finally, we talked about his studio routine and how he hops between different ideas and work.
I'm always moving back and forth between paintings. I have paintings in there from 2 years ago that I'm still like little bit, like bit by bit adding to it. One of the routines is that there are several works which are following each other. It's like conversations going on, and then I'm like trying to paint varieties of the same idea. So that's one of the routines, definitely, working back and forth between several works. I usually catch myself staring into the paintings, just looking at them and thinking a lot, and then just basically trying to be strategic. And then there are paintings that have been there for a very long time, like 2 years ago, and just going back and forth, and once in a while I add little bits to them. This page was like new because there was this gray brush stroke, and I just a few days ago was sitting there and just trying to interpret it into something, like a flying monkey melting, I don't know. And then there are moments that like I catch myself just staring at the paintings or thinking too much or overthinking about the painting. So I have this kind of, I have a paper on the wall that it's not about making your work, it's just about getting physical with the painting. So I just make a mess on it, and I'm like, this is not going to be a painting, so just don't be stressed about it, just do whatever you want, make a mess. Like, you know, in the backstage or before filming, like the actor or actress is kind of, you know, like exercising, making noises, getting physical, getting into the character, like something like that, like trying to get physical with the painting. So I just make a mess to just kind of like exercise before the actual core activity, and then I move on to paint. I'm not thinking about politics, I'm not thinking about the economy, I'm not thinking about society, I'm not thinking about all these crazy deep subjects. I'm thinking about the surface quality, I'm thinking about what I'm actually doing there on the surface. Every brush stroke is little epigrammatic idea about color, texture, shape, things like that, you know, the fundamentals. It's not about this brush stroke represents oppression of Iranians through the history. Like, it's not about politics and history and shit. It's not about that. It's about perception, you know.
If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing and hit the bell to get notified about new projects, and I'll see you in the next one.